In the golden age of heroes, when gods walked among mortals and myths were born from deeds of valor, there lived a man whose strength was matched only by his tragedy. His name was Hercules. But our tale begins not with triumph, but with horror most profound. Dawn broke like a bloodied blade across the stone courtyard, its golden light casting long shadows over a scene that would haunt the halls of legend forever. There knelt the mightiest hero who ever drew breath, Hercules, son of Zeus, destroyer of monsters, staring at his own hands, stained crimson with the blood of his beloved wife and 3 innocent children. You see, Hercules was not just any man. He was the son of Zeus, king of the gods, and a mortal woman named Alcmene. And Zeus's wife, Hera, well, she had nursed a jealous hatred for this child since the day he was born. Hera's revenge was terrible and precise. She drove Hercules into a fit of madness, and in his confusion, he murdered his beloved family. When the madness lifted, like fever breaking, Hercules was left with one burning question. How could someone so strong be so powerless to protect what mattered most? Through winding mountain paths shrouded in sacred mist, Hercules journeyed to the oracle at Delphi, where the gods spoke through sacred smoke and ancient ritual. The temple's marble columns gleamed like bone in the firelight as the priestess's words echoed through the hallowed chamber. 12 years you must serve King Eurystheus of Tiryns. Only through his labors can your soul find peace. Eurystheus wasn't just any king. He was Hercules' own cousin, a coward who had stolen Hercules' birthright through Hera's manipulation. But Hercules bowed his mighty frame and accepted his punishment. Sometimes true strength means swallowing your pride. Labor 1. The Nemean Lion. The first labor seemed straightforward enough. "Kill the Nemean lion," commanded the trembling Eurystheus. But this was no ordinary beast. Its golden hide had been blessed by the gods themselves. No weapon forged by mortal hands could pierce it. Hercules tracked the creature to its cave in the hills of Nemea, a lair that reeked of death and old bones. His bronze-tipped arrows shattered harmlessly against its flanks. His sword, forged by the finest smiths, crumbled like clay upon impact. But when the lion lunged with claws extended and jaws agape, Hercules caught it in his powerful arms. Man and monster wrestled in the dust, locked in a struggle that shook the very foundations of the earth. Muscles strained against divine sinew, bones creaked under impossible pressure, until finally, the lion's struggles grew weak, then ceased. Hercules had strangled it with his bare hands, accomplishing what no weapon could achieve. From this victory came wisdom. Using the lion's own claws, the only things sharp enough to pierce its hide, Hercules skinned the beast, creating an impenetrable cloak that would protect him in trials to come. Labor 2. The Lernaean Hydra. In the poisonous swamps of Lerna lurked a monster from nightmares, the Hydra, a serpent with multiple heads, each dripping with venom that could kill with a single drop. But here's what made it truly terrifying. Cut off one head, and 2 would grow back in its place. Hercules learned this truth in the most brutal way possible. His first strike removed a head cleanly, only to watch in horror as 2 more sprouted from the stump. He cut off those. 4 heads hissed back at him. He was literally making the problem worse with every swing of his sword. But Hercules had learned from his first labor. He called for help from his nephew Iolaus, who brought burning torches. As Hercules severed each head, Iolaus quickly cauterized the wound with fire, preventing new heads from growing. Victory at last. But King Eurystheus, ever the coward, declared this labor invalid. "You had help," he whined from behind his bronze storage jar. Even heroes must face unfair judges, but Hercules pressed on. Labor 3. The Ceryneian Hind. The third labor tested not Hercules' strength, but his patience. The Ceryneian hind was a deer of impossible beauty, golden antlers that caught sunlight like captured fire, bronze hooves that rang like bells upon stone, and speed that defied mortal understanding. But it was sacred to Artemis, goddess of the hunt. Hercules couldn't kill it. He had to capture it alive. For 1 full year, Hercules pursued this creature. Through primeval forests and over snow-capped mountains, across rushing rivers and through thorny valleys. A year of running, tracking, never giving up. The man who had once solved problems with his fists was learning the virtue of persistence. When he finally cornered the deer by a crystal stream, Artemis herself appeared in all her divine glory. Instead of fighting the goddess, Hercules explained his quest for redemption. Moved by his sincerity, she allowed him to borrow the deer temporarily. Labor 4. The Erymanthian Boar. The Erymanthian boar was a creature of pure rage, massive, vicious, with tusks like bronze daggers and eyes that burned with primal fury. But Hercules had learned to think strategically. Instead of meeting rage with rage, he used his mind. He chased the boar up treacherous mountain slopes, driving it ever higher into the realm of eternal snow where it became trapped and exhausted. Then, simply and efficiently, he bound it with chains and carried it back to Tiryns. King Eurystheus was so terrified when he saw the boar that he leaped into his large bronze storage jar and refused to come out. Labor 5. The Augean Stables. Picture the most disgusting job imaginable. King Augeas owned 3,000 cattle, and their stables hadn't been cleaned in 30 years. The smell was beyond description, the filth mountainous. Clean them in a single day? Impossible for anyone but Hercules. But our hero had learned innovation. Instead of shoveling for decades, he diverted 2 mighty rivers, the Alpheus and the Peneus, and channeled their rushing waters through the stables. In hours, the torrents washed away 30 years of waste. King Augeas had promised payment but refused to honor his word. And Eurystheus? He declared this labor invalid too, claiming it was cheating to use the rivers. Labor 6. The Stymphalian Birds. The Stymphalian birds were winged death, bronze beaks sharp as spears, metallic feathers that could slice through armor, and an insatiable appetite for human flesh. They nested in a marsh where Hercules couldn't reach them. How do you fight an enemy you can't get close to? The goddess Athena provided the answer, bronze castanets that made an ear-splitting noise. When Hercules clashed them together, the birds were so startled they flew up in panic and confusion. Now, Hercules could shoot them with his arrows as they flailed helplessly in the sky. Labor 7. The Cretan Bull. On the island of Crete, a massive bull breathed fire and destroyed everything in its path. Hercules sailed across the wine-dark sea to face this beast that had terrorized an entire civilization. He met the bull in single combat, wrestling it with his bare hands, man against monster, strength against strength. The bull was mighty, but Hercules was mightier, and more importantly, he was determined. He bound the defeated bull and brought it back to the mainland, where Eurystheus was once again too terrified to look at it. Hercules released it, and it wandered to Marathon, where it would later be killed by another hero named Theseus. Labor 8. The Mares of Diomedes. In the savage lands of Thrace, King Diomedes kept 4 horses with an unnatural appetite. They fed on human flesh. He chained them like wild beasts and fed them as enemies. But divine justice has a way of turning the tables. In a dark twist of fate, Hercules fed Diomedes to his own horses. With their master's blood, the mares became calm and manageable. But victory came at a price. Hercules' beloved companion Abderus was killed in the battle. Labor 9. The Girdle of Hippolyta. The Amazons were warrior women who had never known defeat. Their queen, Hippolyta, wore a golden girdle that had been given to her by Ares, god of war. When Hercules arrived at their city, something unexpected happened. Hippolyta was willing to give him the girdle peacefully. But Hera wasn't finished with her interference. She spread rumors among the Amazons that Hercules planned to kidnap their queen. The warriors attacked, and in the chaos that followed, Hercules was forced to kill the noble Hippolyta. He obtained the girdle, but at the cost of an innocent life. Labor 10. The Cattle of Geryon. At the very edge of the known world, where the Mediterranean met the vast Atlantic, lived Geryon, a giant with 3 bodies, 3 heads, and 3 sets of arms. He owned a herd of beautiful red cattle that grazed on an island paradise. To reach this distant land, Hercules had to borrow the golden cup of Helios, the sun god himself. He sailed across waters where no mortal had ever ventured, to face a monster that was 3 times as dangerous as any normal foe. The battle was fierce. Geryon fought with 3 shields, 3 spears, and the strength of 3 men. But Hercules' arrows found their marks, and the giant fell. Then began the long journey home, driving the cattle across the ancient world, facing bandits, monsters, and countless obstacles. Labor 11. The Apples of the Hesperides. The golden apples of the Hesperides grew on a tree at the world's end, where the sun sets and the stars are born. They were guarded by a dragon that never slept and tended by the daughters of Atlas. But here's the problem. No mortal knew exactly where to find them. Hercules became a seeker of secrets, tracking down clues from sea gods and titans. He wrestled the shape-shifting Nereus until the sea god revealed the location. He freed Prometheus from his eternal torment in exchange for crucial information. Finally, he reached Atlas, the titan condemned to hold up the sky. They struck a bargain. Atlas would retrieve the apples if Hercules would temporarily bear the weight of the heavens. For hours, Hercules strained under the crushing burden of the entire universe. When Atlas returned with the golden apples, he suggested delivering them to Eurystheus himself. Hercules agreed, but asked Atlas to hold the sky just for a moment, while he adjusted his cloak. The instant Atlas resumed his burden, Hercules seized the apples and fled. Labor 12. Cerberus. The final labor was the most dangerous of all. Bring back Cerberus, the 3-headed hound that guards the gates of the underworld. This meant Hercules had to go where no living person should ever go, the realm of the dead. Guided by Hermes, messenger of the gods, and protected by Athena, goddess of wisdom, Hercules descended into the shadowy realm of Hades. The Lord of the Dead himself gave permission for the task, but with one condition: it must be accomplished without weapons. In the deepest pit of Tartarus, Hercules found the massive 3-headed hound, its eyes glowing like coals, its breath reeking of death. They fought in the darkness, man against monster, mortal will against infernal power, until finally Hercules' iron grip subdued the beast. He carried Cerberus to the surface world, displayed it to the cowering Eurystheus, then honorably returned the hound to its post. 12 years had passed, 12 labors completed. The man who had knelt in that blood-soaked courtyard, consumed by guilt and madness, had been transformed. He had learned patience from the deer, wisdom from the hydra, innovation from the stables, and courage from the depths of Hades itself. Zeus himself descended from Mount Olympus, his voice echoing like thunder. Your mortal trials are ended, my son. Take your place among the immortals, protector of heroes, guardian of the innocent. As divine fire coursed through his veins, Hercules looked back once more at the mortal world where he had found redemption through service. Then, with a heart finally at peace, he ascended to his eternal home among the stars,